Hello and welcome back to Rage Game Videos. Welcome to my first build-related anything Path of Exile 2 video. I have been maining a mercenary for the opening days of this early access launch with a simple goal in mind. The ultimate map clearer that is able to absolutely instantly decimate packs of mobs, but also absolutely destroy bosses with incredible sustained DPS. I'm currently progressing through Act 3 on day 2 of the early access as I make this video, so I want to give you a nice overview of what I was doing, what I'm doing now, and what I'm going to be doing next. Hopefully you can see from the gameplay though that what I have been doing and what I am doing is incredibly effective, like dangerously effective. Like I'm specifically not sure they expected gas grenade to be this effective. What you're generally looking at here is a simple build and spend setup, focused on grenades to pop at the same time. Right now I'm basically placing oil on the ground, I'm lighting that oil up, spreading potent fire damage and explosive damage and burst. The fire on the ground's dealing damage over time at the same time as the gas cloud that's dealing a different kind of damage. But the most important part here is that I'm generating a ton of gas clouds. And these gas clouds are exploding in fire. And that's a big part of where a lot of this burst is coming from. So the moment that you hit gas grenade, things start to really spike. And it's only going to get better as we get access to oil grenade, our ascendancy, and really start to cull enemies. I'll be covering everything I can for you guys to let you know how I got to this point and what's going to happen next, as a kind of first section of the campaign overview for how to build this yourself. Let's start with the skills, what I'm using and why. Running down the list, you can see that I'm running permafrost bolts. Permafrost works as a way to shotgun enemies like this one and basically freeze them or explode them. This has been a great way to deal with enemies that are pushing at me and overwhelming me in a group. But at this point, I'm really using that very minimally at this stage. The real bread and butter combo is to explode everything at once. So as I fire off these gas grenades, you can see that they generate this cloud that deals damage. But the real damage on the gas grenade is when that explodes, when it's triggered by a detonator of some kind like that. So gas grenade is the primary source of damage in this build. You can see it when you look at the tooltip. We have an impact, which is kind of the size and fuse duration information. We have the cloud and the damage that that deals, and the thing we actually care about, the explosion. Converts 100% of the physical damage of this to fire damage. And the attack damage is insane. I believe it starts at 300%, which is so interesting because when we were looking at the skill before the early access launched, I remember looking at it at like 110 to 170%. This is more than 3 times that. And as you rank this skill up, as you can see, it starts to scale ludicrously. So it's leading to this ridiculous output that I've been showing. Now, as it says, you can trigger that poison cloud explosive with burning or detonator skills, causing the cloud to explode in a fiery blast. And I'm using explosive grenade, which as you can see in the tags, is a detonator skill. So against this guy, we'll put the cloud down, we'll put the explosive grenades down, there'll be a pause, then it all pops at once, dealing the damage of the explosive grenade and the poison cloud explosion at the same time, which is why the burst is so potent. In the opening section of Act 1, I was using permafrost bolts to freeze enemies, and then they were frozen, I would detonate and break that freeze with explosive grenade. So we're doing something kind of similar. We're setting up the gas grenade and we're popping that with the explosive grenade. It's just significantly more potent. Now, unfortunately, I am back to talk more about gas grenade because it was nerfed. A big part of the damage we're dealing with this build is gas grenade. It's 1/3 of it, right? So obviously people are going to be asking, is this still relevant after the nerf? What happened is this. Gas grenade's explosion base damage has been reduced to 150% to 468% at gem levels 1 to 20, and previously it was noticeably higher. Now it might seem like it's 468% to 749% at the top end is going to be devastating, but it's about 40% less, and that's at the top end. When you initially get it, it's not really going to make a big impact. Why they've made this nerf isn't really logical to me though. As this stated, there is a weird interaction with Flame Wall, not, generic mercenary skill, but we can all use every skill, and the explosion of gas grenade. Since it's kind of like a wall of fire that's ticking over and over, I guess it's popping the gas grenades over and over way too quick. So logically, you would expect them to make that interaction not work that way anymore. Instead, they've just nerfed the overall potential damage of gas grenade. I'm not a fan of this change, but it is what it is. Ultimately, what I'm showing today still works, but it was quite funny for me to make all this video on like day 2 and then go to bed, and then I woke up and hey, they're nerfing it. So I had to put this little bit in this video as well to let you guys know this still works. Gas grenade is still very strong. The next step in that then is, of course, the oil grenade. By placing this oil on the ground, you can detonate on that, to cause it to turn to fire, as I said. So we get the explosion of the explosive grenade, then we have this ticking fire damage on the ground too. Combine the oil, the explosive, and the poison, and suddenly it's all going off at once in an even more potent burst of damage, but now sustained DPS. Because we're placing the oil grenade, we're popping that, and then we're putting the gas cloud on. More gas clouds means many more pops. So as I send in the final explosive, that is a massive burst of damage. Absolutely devastating in a boss fight. There are other ways we can further enhance the damage. As you can see, I'm testing Voltic Grenade, which is going to generate shock for further enhancement. Though I will say, as we'll talk about, this hasn't hit for me quite how I'd like. The other skill that I do still make a lot of use of though is Flash Grenade, which is going to send out multiple flash grenades and pop, dealing incredible stun buildup. During Act 1 and quite a lot of Act 2, this was my primary source of control and even damage beyond explosive grenade. In Act 1, it was permafrost and explosive grenade. Then as soon as I hit the tier for flash grenade, that became what the build was all about. These days, when I'm getting so much burst from my bread and butter triple combo, flash grenade is basically my setup in a boss fight specifically. Building up great stun, holding the boss in place, allowing me to set up the incredible burst combo without it moving out of it. So it still holds quite a relevant purpose. For you, and getting into the opening section of Act 3 and everything before that, here is the gems and the supports that we're running. For Permafrost, I'm running Pierce because you absolutely need it. So without it gemmed in, I can't really penetrate through this guy to hit enemies behind him, which is a nightmare for AoE clearing, that's for sure. As soon as we put it in, we're actually able to go straight through him and hit what's behind him with that arc. The other thing is Ice Bite. When I freeze an enemy using this supported skill, attacks will gain a 35% of damage as cold damage for 3 seconds. So I get a burst of cold damage on other attacks, all attacks, such as even my grenades. So it's a little damage boost if I get to freeze something and then grenade. Next is Explosive Grenade, which is what we're using to pop permafrost bolts frozen targets initially. Here we have Fast Forward and Martial Tempo. The concept behind this is simple. The duration on these grenades is so long that we're waiting for them to pop. We're minimizing how long we're waiting for that with that. So Fast Forward and Martial Tempo really help. For Flash Grenade then, right now it's a little bit awkward. The most important thing here is Overpower. It basically means more stun build-up, which is the point of why I'm using this ability. But the other thing I have here is just Ignition as a filler. Ignite is a really potent concept of dealing damage over time, but I can't seem to get the highest value out of it, and I feel like maybe later game, Ignite's going to be more relevant. But what was here before that, and what I recommend to you to run as soon as you unlock Flash Grenade, is Scatter Shot. Right now I'm firing 3 because of a bunch of different setups that I've got. As we take Scatter Shot and put it into Flash Grenade, you'll see that I'm now firing 5 of the things, generating way more stun buildup and potent damage. So the moment that I unlocked Flash Grenade, the first thing I socketed in was Scatter Shot, and then I got Overpower in it. And this became my primary source of damage and control for a little while there. These days, I have Scatter Shot and Gas Grenade because that's my primary source of damage, right? So I want as many clouds to pop as possible, obviously. This leaves Flash Grenade a little bit awkward state with, what am I going to use as support here? I'm planning to use Devastate once I actually have access to the higher support skill gems. For Gas Grenade then, obviously I'm running Scatter Shot as it's my primary DPS. We want to spread that out as much as possible. And with that, Fire Infusion. Supported attacks gain 25% of damage as extra fire damage. And remember, this is a key part. The explosion, the part that we care about, the big attack damage, it's converting 100% of physical damage to fire damage. So we're just making that even stronger. Next, you're going to see my Herald of Ice, which is my aura skill. This is a bit of an awkward one. When you get the Herald, which is still in Act 1, you have a bunch of options that are not, say, perfect. And Herald of Ice basically means when you shatter an enemy, like the ones I'm freezing with permafrost bolts, it causes another icy explosion, helping you essentially push through packs of enemies. Great in the early game. At this point, it's starting to fall off for me as I use permafrost bolts less and less, so I will be changing this, and I'm thinking maybe War Banner will be relevant for me. But just to show you the supports for this, I initially used Cold Infusion, because that explosive AoE of ice, well, I just make that stronger extra cold damage. But this is really key, clarity. As you start to spam grenades more than, say, permafrost bolts, mana becomes an issue. And so you want to keep on top of it. Clarities give me a lot more mana regen while a persistent buff skill is going, and obviously this is. So it's really kind of addressing the mana issues that I started to have as I got later into Act 2. The problem with Clarity is that it requires 10 spirit to use, and Herald of Ice uses 30. So you need 40 spirit before you can get this mana. So I would recommend you do what I did and try to find an item that gives you a little bit of spirit. Here I have a chest piece that has spirit on it, which allowed me to slot this in and get that mana regen and actually really benefit from that. Next then we have these electric grenades, which I was obviously dabbling in. Unfortunately, I can't massively recommend this setup to you, but I'll just acknowledge it. The concept is to apply shock. Lightning hits, as you can see, have a chance to shock based on how much lightning damage is dealt, which is just another way that we can increase damage attacking a shocked target. But I've just not found it reliable enough and not worth the mana when I can just be doing my better DPS. So it's something that I'm playing with, but I'm not really going to recommend this to you, just acknowledging it. So in that interest, I put conduction on this, so it has a higher chance to shock. So it's certainly worth it if you get shock off, but I could just be doing more consistent DPS immediately, so maybe later game, basically. Lastly, I'm using oil grenade, as we've explained, to get that oil on the ground, dealing burn damage over time. This creates ignited ground. It's a kind of guaranteed way to ignite enemies that are standing in it. What's important about this is those that are covered in oil get fire exposure though, so their total fire resistance is lowered. Again, my gas grenade, the big damage is the fire damage from the explosion of the gas grenade. So covering them in oil is making that deal more damage. That's fantastic. For the supports on that, I'm running persistence so that the oil effect actually lasts longer and we get more of that burn as well. So this lasts longer with persistence. And then I've got magnified effect just to make that area significantly bigger because we want to cover everything in oil and the fire and the burn and all that goodness, of course. So that's the skills and the way we're supporting them and the reasoning and function behind them. Let's now talk about the big one, starting with the Ascendancy and then the passive skill tree. For Ascendancy, we're going Witchhunter. The concept behind this is to absolutely clear packs of enemies instantaneously. As you can see when I'm running through whatever mobs that I'm dealing with, I'm basically applying the gas grenade and popping it with explosive grenades and moving on, killing everything instantaneously. This is also because we're proccing Zealous Inquisition, the first passive we go for with the Ascendancy. A chance for enemies that we kill to explode, dealing 100% of their max life as physical damage, and the chance is actually doubled against undead and demons where it's consistently going off. Dealing with packs of enemies, you see this Witchhunter's rune on the ground constantly proccing, and yeah, leading again to these mob clears that are happening instantly with just 2 button presses. If I come across like an elite or a stronger enemy or whatever, I might flash grenade, I might also put the oil grenade down, but a lot of the time, thanks to Zealous Inquisition, I just need to put down the gas grenade, an explosive grenade, and everything dies anyway. So that was my first choice. Next, I plan to go into Pitless Killer so we can pick up Culling Strike, so low health enemies may just die. And obviously we're leading into Judge, Jury, and Executioner for Decimating Strike, so we have this potential of cutting off even 30% of even a boss's life as the initial hit. So yeah, very, very bursty. After that, I'm still weighing up what I want to do, whether it's Weapon Master for potential there, or very likely going for Witchbane to mess with concentration mechanics and benefiting from that longer term. But for us initially, Zealous Inquisition, into Pitless Killer, into Judge, Jury, and Executioner, then probably Witchbane to end. At least while I'm leveling and progressing the campaign stuff. Next then, let's talk about the actual skill passive tree. Here's the order of priority that I went through. From the start, we come down through some projectile damage to increase the potency of the damage and pick up Remorseless, which is really nice. And then we continue down, ignoring all this. We come straight to the left here for cooldown and recovery, increased area of effect as well, meaning we're able to get those grenades off better and bigger. And this brings us down. At this point, we head further down to our big power spike, which is this little circle here for grenades. For the notable nodes of cluster bombs, which unfortunately increases grenade fuse duration, so they last a little bit longer before they pop, but grenade skills fire an additional projectile. So the reason that I'm firing 2 explosive grenades instead of 1 every time I press it is partly because of cluster bombs. Then this leads into Grenadier, where grenade skills have 1 extra cooldown use. So that's why, say, my flash grenade, I can use it twice back to back. This circle I'm going to fill out because everything here I kind of want, including the cooldown recovery rate and even the, increased area of effect. But the main thing is to get the 2 notables as fast as you can. Once we've done that, there's the next power spike that we're going to aim for, which is down this way to the right. We're aiming for volatile grenades, reducing the grenade fuse duration, counteracting what we did over here for the extra projectile. That's another important spike. After that, we can head straight down and head to what I am aiming for right here on this little crossbow shape, repeating explosives. A 15% chance for grenades to simply activate a second time. This could be unbelievable DPS, and it's obviously what I'm aiming for. But why do I not have it yet? Well, because survivability in Act 2 and especially 3 is more important, at least initially. So instead of going for that, that's where we come back up to the top and get some armor and evasion with feel no pain in the nose next to it, and then battle hardened. From here we come back down and lead back up into hard to kill, giving us some all important regen and improving the potency of our recovery rate with flasks. You'll also see it come down into this little two-hand symbol for all the increased two-hand weapon perks that are easy to get with points quickly, massively improving our damage with that two-handed weapon, the crossbow. Out of the two on the side here, I go for a colossal weapon just to get the increased area of effect for those explosions, but I do plan to eventually pick up curved weapon for the accuracy and the dex because they are very nice. So that's what I've got so far and why and the order that I've done it. What I'm aiming for next then is, as I've shown you down here with the crossbow, repeating explosives. After that, it's just kind of filling out the gaps. So I plan to come over here and get this adrenaline rush, giving me attack speed and movement speed based on killing enemies. It's going to be really nice for leveling and map clear in general. I'm interested in messing around with ricochet since that's only 2 points to get. I'm interested in going for sand in the eyes for the attack speed, as well as that little bit of blind chance, which is nice. I'm interested in authority, again, area of effect for attacks and cooldown recovery rate for those grenades. I'm also interested in this, full salvo. 25% increased damage with crossbows for each type of ammunition fired in the past 10 seconds. This is weird wording and it's something I want to test, but it's going to take a lot of levels to get there. I'm wondering whether this is going to increase the damage that I get per type of ammunition fired every 10 seconds. So would it be beneficial to me in this case to fire off a gas grenade, an explosive grenade, a flash grenade, a voltic grenade, an oil grenade, and each one that I do within 10-second period is giving me this increased damage bonus? Or is it only per one and maybe a lot less exciting? So, stuff to test. Coming around to the left, there's also some fire symbols. We're going to be doing a lot of fire damage, so I am interested in this to help me get more penetration straight through their fire resistance, an increased chance to ignite for damage over time in the later game. So those are what we're interested in the future, but that's quite a few levels to think about. Alright, so next up it's time to talk about stats and defenses as well. You got to make sure that you're getting your resistances, guys. At this exact moment, I'm just starting Act 3, so I'm falling behind on fire and lightning a little bit. And you want to make sure your max life and defenses are nice too. So when it comes to your gear, max life on every armor piece is the goal, as well as some kind of resistance and armor, or possibly energy shield, possibly evasion, but I aim for armor the most. But the core of our damage is centered around, of course, our weapon, as we are a martial class. So this is really important to get correct. The physical damage number, in my case 18 to 71, really decides how potent my abilities are going to be. Let me give you an exact example and how you can track this yourself. Here are just some crossbows that I've been using in the past, just to show you some different examples. If you pull up the ability and gem screen, you can see DPS, and we have 0 right now because we're not actually holding a crossbow. Let's use this crossbow that has physical damage 16 to 39 as the start. Explosive grenade, 354 damage possible. Let's take this slightly better crossbow that has up to 62 damage. As you can see, the explosive grenade damage is now 587. Then we have the one I'm currently using, which is 852, and this is a very clear way for us to go, okay, am I equipping something that's actually better? Check the DPS and damage of your abilities and you can really tell. But the main source for us is physical damage. Remember, physical damage is going to enhance lots of different things. The flash grenade, the explosive grenade, the gas grenade in particular, because again, physical damage will be converted at 100% rate to fire damage. So physical damage is the most important thing for us. The bigger the physical damage number, the more our abilities are going to hit. So the starting point for whether a weapon's worth is to check by holding Alt its item level. We can see this is item level 34. So it has potential to roll higher benefits with the affixes. You need increased physical damage as the most important one to get. So you can see how I've got it on this crossbow. You can see how I've got a massive number on this one. I was using this for ages. And I've of course got it on the one I'm currently using. The physical damage number is everything, but we can make it even better with flat damage. And most importantly, that would be fire or cold damage. Lightning, as you can see, is still good, but ideally fire is what I aim for. So you can see as I get to the town for the first time in Act 3, I'm looking at the crossbows and I really want to get one of these new ones. In Act 3, the crossbows start to have an inherent skill. Grenade skills fire an additional projectile. That's why, instead of having 4 gas grenades when I fire it, I have 5, thanks to that crossbow's inherent passive. So I really wanted a good one to get that passive going as soon as possible. So I used a lot of my saved up crafting orbs to buy some of these cheaper, even white, normal crossbows turn them into a rare, and hope that I get that increased physical damage affix and other stuff that will be good. Once I did, I then put some sockets onto it and slotted in more increased physical damage. And in this case, just a bit of a bonus, leeching a bit of life for physical damage. So my priority generally for your crossbows is increased physical damage, flat fire element or other elements if you can't get that, additional projectiles, and leveling your projectile skills. Otherwise, things like attack speed, leech, accuracy, crit, those are going to be fine too, but less priority. But yeah, that'll do for now then. This is just my coverage of what I've been doing before, now, and what I'm planning next. I hope this was clear and informative enough. Obviously the game's very complex. This is my first time ever covering any kind of build related video for Path of Exile in general, so I hope it was alright. I look forward to more experimentation and looking into different stuff and trying stuff, and coming back in the future to let you know what's changed, how I progressed, and what you can do next if you're following along. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thank you for watching, I'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.